To the September session of the Business as Unusual webinar series. I'm Kathy Steele, CEO of Red Caffeine, and your host for today's session. So a couple of housekeeping items before we jump into our session today. You can ask questions and provide answers into the chat feature. If you're joining us via one of our social stream channels, please feed your questions into the chat, and Dana Welters will be moderating that chat and feeding those questions into our guest speaker today. So I'm going to kick things off with some introductions. If it's not your first Business as Unusual, you may recognize my co-host, Tom Lederay. He's managing partner at M3 Learning. M3 works with companies as large as Google and WebEx to entrepreneurial startups, and their solutions change the way your sales teams will interact with their accounts. The relationship will be at higher levels, and the tools will transform how the team communicates at every level of the account, giving them a framework to engage, qualify, and close more business effectively. Tom has been a disciple of M3 Learning process since 2000, which seems like a really long time ago now. Tom, when I say
that seems, Kathy, it is a long time ago.
Right? Yeah. When he was VP of Sales and Marketing at SBR Inc. He's got over 26 years of marketing, sales, and sales management experience, and Tom brings such a unique real-world perspective to the M3 Learning experience. Tom, welcome to Business as Unusual today.
Thanks so much, Kathy. Really glad to be a part of this program.
Yes. Really excited to introduce a long-term friend or friend. Our guest expert today is Rob Dubé, and Rob is the co-founder of imageOne. imageOne helps clients with technology solutions to optimize and manage print, automate a business process, secure documents, and help ensure a safe and healthy work environment. But a little counterintuitive to optimizing 10 disciplines. He is also here to talk today about his new venture. He is working with EOS founder Gino Whitman, and Rob is now the founder and visionary CEO of the 10 Disciplines for Managing and Maximizing Energy. 10 Disciplines is a video-based journey that teaches people 10 fast, simple, powerful, and fully customized disciplines to manage and maximize their energy and live an optimal life. Rob's the author of the best-selling book, Do Nothing, which he knows makes me very nervous. Even just the name of the book makes me nervous. But it really is, and by all accounts of everyone that's participated and leveraged these tips, the most rewarding leadership challenge you will ever take. He's also the host of Leading with Genuine Care retreat and podcasts. Rob challenges business leaders and entrepreneurs to really look inward to mindfulness and meditation by sharing his own mindfulness leadership journeys. So today we're going to be talking about really how to leverage these 10 disciplines in your leadership to maximize and manage our energy as leaders. And some of the things that we expect people to walk away with today is, really understanding that long-term thinking can provide perspective and bring you more energy. Being able to accept who you are and instead of trying to be someone else will also give you back more energy. And then by protecting how you spend your time before, during work hours allows you to focus on growing your company. So welcome to both of you today. So Rob, tell us a little bit something that is not on your bio.
I've been married for 30 years this year. I have two children, 27 and 23. And my wife and I live in northern Michigan, a very small town, population of 1,200. We always dreamed we'd be able to move up here in the northern part of our state here in Michigan. We raised our kids in the Detroit area. So I bring that up because, I have a clearer mind because I'm around nature and I'm around Lake Michigan. And it helps me with my energy, which is a good deal of what we're going to talk about today. So,
Excellent.
and thanks for having me, by the way. This is so amazing. I really appreciate you, Kathy and Tom. And I'm excited to share these 10 disciplines with everyone who's been able to join us today.
Well, I do say that Rob was one of the people that introduced me to EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and I wish I would have jumped on it the right after the phone call we had many years ago. It took me
I
a little
remember
bit
that.
longer. I'm always kind of a slow starter, but it has been a game changer in my organization and many of our clients' businesses as well. So really excited to level up by using these 10 disciplines, or at least understanding where I sit with these 10 disciplines to help get more energy back into my life and business. So a little bit about Red Caffeine. We're a growth consultancy, and we help leadership teams navigate which is their most optimal opportunity for growth. But one of the things that we find in many cases is that it's working with us or working on growth initiatives is not financially a barrier, is not always financial. It tends to be a lot more about people's time. So even if your business is not running on EOS today, I think one of the most challenging resources we all have as leaders of organization is getting back time in our life. And so really thrilled to jump into today's session. So we're going to go into a little different format. Usually Tom and I are going to be asking the questions, but we're going to flip the script, and Rob's going to take us through this very interactive session of all the different disciplines. And Tom and I will be rating ourselves on these leadership disciplines, and we're going to see what areas we really need to work on in our business and personal lives.
We're going to lay ourselves bare.
There
right?
you go. There you go. Watch out. I'm going to pick on you guys a couple of times, but again, thank you. And, for everyone out there, hopefully you have a worksheet that was sent to you, because, I'm hopeful that you'll participate here and not just listen to me talk the whole time. That'll get boring real fast, but this is about you. And so, use this time to just sort of clear everything out, turn off, you turn your phones on quiet, maybe turn them over, turn your notifications off. I mean, you showed up, so what the heck, you might as well be fully present and make the most out of this. And I hope I give you something to think about by the end. Let me first just mention a little bit about the 10 disciplines and what they actually do. Because they're much more than what you might think at the surface is like a productivity thing. They really, and our goal here is they really help you to create freedom in your life to allow for your creativity to flourish. We want it to spark. And when that starts to happen, you really get a clearer understanding of how you can make true impact in this world. And as we like to say, so you live in float, FLOWT. It's likely you never heard the word spelled that way. That's because we made it up, and I'm going to share with you what that means in a moment here. So what we'll accomplish during our time together, and at times I might go kind of fast because we are kind of tight on time, but I'm just going to do a little add-on to what Kathy shared about me. I'm going to talk about float and how does energy fit into it. Kathy mentioned energy a moment ago. I'm going to share with you what the 10 disciplines are and are not. And as we go through each discipline, you'll notice there's a root statement, as we like to call it. And the root statement is if you just did that, you're mastering it. So it's like a really simple statement for you to remember. And if you just do that, you got the concept. And finally, you'll assess yourself. So if you don't have the worksheet, just grab like a piece of paper or something that you can, even if it's a Post-it note, just so you can scribble a couple things, it'll be really easy. So very quickly, just to add a little bit about what Kathy said about me. What Kathy shared and what I kind of share about my family is that's my outer world. And most of us at this point in our career, if we're on this, it's likely we have mastered the outer world. We've done some good things in our lives. We've had a measure of success. Maybe we have good incomes at this point, and we can go and we can do things and have some unique experiences, and we can have things. And, all the things that, you kind of strive for when you're young and you get going in your life. And those were all great things, by the way. I think they're very, very important. But the next part to it is as you kind of get to those success points, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it, many start to feel as a little empty, like something's missing. Like I've reached the top of the mountain, or I'm darn near close to it, and it isn't everything I thought it was going to be. It's really great, it's comfortable, but it isn't everything I thought it was going to be. And what's missing for many of us is just a little bit more focus on our inner self. And so that's, believe it or not, what the 10 disciplines really helps us to do. And I'm going to explain a little bit more about that. But I want to share about my inner self, because I had a great deal of trauma that I experienced growing up. And that led to a lot of stress and anxiety in my life. And as I got into my adult years and started my company, my first company in 1991 with my best friend, Joel Pearlman, starting a company is pretty stressful. And when you already have that sort of default mechanism in place, you don't show up that great. And I wasn't showing up great. I got married. I wasn't showing up great as a husband. I was always on edge. I was always stressed out. Of course, then we had our first child, same thing. I knew deep down something wasn't right. I didn't have a strong enough foundation in my life at that point, but I knew I needed help. And that's when I started my inner work journey. And that continues for what I believe will be the rest of my life. One of the things that happened to me along the way that has to do with building that strong foundation I mentioned a minute ago is I became a client, one of Gino Wickman's first client in EOS. So for those of you that are familiar with EOS, we were one of the first clients, and Gino worked with us directly. The two of us struck up a friendship, and over the years, we'd get together for coffee a few times a year, and we would meet for like a half a day. And, what I started to notice is he had a lot of disciplines in his life. He never defined them, but just in the course of our conversation, he would share some things, some ways that he was living his life. And I was really interested in them. And so I started to glean those disciplines that he had from him and incorporate them into my life. And what I noticed is it started to create some freedom for me to open up space to really do some good work, and my creativity would spark. And then I started to notice how I could really make greater impact, not just in my business, but actually in my life. And again, that's what these disciplines are all about. Later, Gino actually put them together, and we have an ebook that you could get at the10disciplines.com. And it outlines every single one of the disciplines. So if you miss something today, then you can grab the ebook, and that'll sort of build on it for you. Now we're partners in this. We're taking this to the world. We really want to take this to 1 million entrepreneurs and get them on this journey because it's so meaningful. So I mentioned this word float, F-L-O-W-T, and you might have noticed by now I'm looking down at notes because I'm always afraid I'm going to miss something. So please bear with me when I do that. But as I mentioned, float is a word that we created. And it means that you have got the ability in your life all of a sudden to kind of flow through life. So much so that it kind of feels like you're floating in a way. But it doesn't mean that everything is going great, because that's just not how life goes. But it means that all of a sudden we have a really strong mental capacity to handle what's coming at us with a sense of ease. And imagine that, because we get ruffled a lot when things don't go our way or it's not a tidy bow. Now imagine what that might feel like if you were in float. You just handled things like it was just so easeful. And the other thing I want to mention that Kathy brought up was this idea around energy. So I just want to kind of define, like, what is energy as it relates to what we're talking about here? Well, first of all, and I want to caveat this by saying, you can call this spiritual, you could call this scientific, you could call it religious. It comes from all kinds of places, and it's nothing that we made up, and we just bring it together in a secular manner, really, more than anything. But energy is your power source. It's connected to you. It's your soul, and it flows freely if you allow it to. But so often, especially with high performers, it's blocked. Our energy is blocked. And one thing that I've learned about working with high performers is they recognize when their energy is blocked, and they do everything possible to make sure that it isn't, because they realize managing that energy force is so vital to how they show up in this world, both in business and in their personal life. And when that happens, that's when that true creativity sparks. It begins to really flow freely. And quite frankly, it can be endless. And so these 10 disciplines that I'm going to share with you create the foundation that allows for that to happen. But we need that strong foundation in our life. Now, one thing that you will notice as I go through this is it's really fast. They're very powerful, and they're fully customizable to your unique self. So you just have to think about how I'm going to incorporate this in my life. So this is for you to incorporate the way you see best. But what I will say is when you hear them, they might sound kind of easy, but I will promise you, without proper effort, they are not easy. We have a community, a group coaching program. We have 2 groups, and people come to us for help with this so they can master it. Oftentimes they've tried on their own. They realize this is very challenging to master. So, okay, I'm going to jump in, and it starts with discipline number 1, which is 10-year thinking. And the root statement here is simply shift your mind from short-term thinking to thinking in 10-year timeframes. Now, the first way I'm going to describe this is I want to actually have you participate with me for a second. I want you to just maybe, if you're comfortable, just kind of close your eyes for a minute and think ahead 10 years. And for many people, this is a very hard thing to do. So just do your best. But think ahead 10 years. So it's September 15th, 2032. Now, just grab your age if it's not too painful, depending on how old you are. Grab your age. How old are you on that day? And then think of maybe 1 to 3 things, broadly speaking, or they can be specific, of how your life looks. What's happening? What does it look like? Okay, there you go. You just thought in a 10-year time frame. I just took you there. If you did the exercise, you were 10 years into the future. So congratulations. It can be literally as simple as that, but we'll break it down for a minute. The next thing I want to share with you about 10-year thinking is on the business side of things. And Gino's mentor, his name was Sam Cupp. Sadly, he passed away. He taught him about the 10-year business cycle. And that's where in every 10-year business cycle, you're going to have 2 great years, 6 good years, and 2 terrible years that could literally put you out of business. And simply stated, you just want to be prepared for those 2 terrible years because they are coming. You can go back 100 years and you can see, like clockwork, pretty much every 10 years, something happens. There's a war, there's a recession, there's inflation, 9/11, dot-com crash, pandemic, or sometimes kind of like how we're experiencing now, it could be like a lot of things at once. That's pretty unique, but that can happen. And I want to share a personal story about my company, the one I founded back in '91, which is imageOne. We were cruising coming into 2020. I mean, we were just absolutely having the best years of our life, and we were poised to do the same coming into 2020. And when the shutdown came in March of 2020, as Kathy mentioned, we provide companies with multifunction printers, copiers, and document workflow software, and they weren't in their offices. And when people aren't in their offices, they're not using the equipment that we sell them. And that's our whole livelihood. We thought we were going to be down to 0 in revenue. Thank goodness we were only 60% down in revenue, which sounds crazy, but we were actually excited about that. But the thing that helped us through is that we had a very clear picture 10 years into the future. And we were very prepared for those 2 terrible years. And so once we got kind of through the shock of what was going on that we all experienced and the reality hit us of what it was, we were able to kind of get in a good groove because we knew we were prepared to get through a couple of years of this and then get back on track. And just having that 10-year thinking slowed things down for us. And it actually helped us make better decisions throughout that period of time. And we were able to actually do some really great things. We made an acquisition because many companies in our industry weren't prepared. And we were able to really hone in and amplify our culture even greater than we had previous to that. And so we were able to do some really great things and come together strong as a team. So I just use that as a personal story, so maybe you can relate to it. But I leave you with this on 10-year thinking. This, whether it's in your personal life or your business or hopefully both, remember, time slows down. We want things so badly now, results now, I need it now. And when we take a moment to think out into 10 years, we know we've got time. And when we know we have time, we have some peace of mind. And when we have that, we tend to make better decisions. When you have a clearer mind, you make better decisions. And what ends up happening? You get there faster. So let's pause here. Now you'll take a moment, and I'd like to ask you to rank yourself from 1 to 10 on your ability on how you've incorporated 10-year thinking into your life. 1's you haven't done it at all, and 10 is you're absolutely masterful. And then if you're 7 or below, take an action. So just write one thing that you can do like in the next week to take a step in the right direction, whether to enhance whatever it is you're already doing or to just start doing something. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds to do that. Okay, great job. So let's move on to discipline number 2, which is Kathy's favorite, take time off. So here our root statement is take at least 130 days off per year. And get this, don't think about work the entire time. What does that mean? Well, the obvious is no checking in with the office, no checking your email. The less obvious is, that stack of business books you've been dying to read that you were going to read on vacation? You're not bringing them with you. You're bringing something else with you, something different. You're not going to catch up on your business reading because that means you're thinking about business. You know how after like 2 or 3 days on vacation, you kind of done a lot of activities and you're starting to feel a little refreshed. All of a sudden your mind fills up with all kinds of great ideas. Well, guess what? You're just going to let those ideas float around. You're not actually going to go write them down and save them or email them to yourself or something like that, or send a text to somebody on your team about them. You're going to resist every urge you have to do what's comfortable for you. And you're actually going to become uncomfortable because you're just so wired to be high performing and successful that this is what your default is. And so we want to change that. We want to truly open up space in your life to truly understand the beauty that surrounds you, every aspect of it. And it's going to go beyond business. You spend so much time on business. We're going to refresh ourselves here in the true sense of the word. Now, if 130 days sounds like a lot, let me put it in perspective for you. If you took every weekend day off, every US holiday, and 3 weeks vacation, you're darn near 130 days. So many of you are probably doing something like that. You're probably working on one of the weekend days. That's what I find often. But you're doing something like that. And so if it's not 130 for you, maybe it's 100, whatever it is, the challenge for you will likely be not thinking about work the entire time. But that's the challenge I want to present to you. And I think it's a challenge worth taking. I think once you get in the groove with it, you're going to be very happy that you did it. It will be uncomfortable at first, but you will get into your groove because you want to learn how to be fully present with what you're doing and with the people, your loved ones or whomever that you're with. And you need to recharge your batteries in the truest sense of that. Recharge your batteries. you will come back with so much more energy, as I talked about earlier, the importance of that energy. So I'm going to ask you all to sort of take a moment and do a ranking for yourself. 1 to 10. 1 is you're not taking time off and at all, or when you do, you're thinking about work the entire time. And 10 is when you take time off, it's darn near the over 100, 130, and you are not thinking about work. You're very disciplined about that. So take a few seconds to do that. And then if you're 7 or below, just make a little action item maybe that you can take in the next week. Might just be, okay, I'm taking vacation in December and I am committing at this moment for 1 week. I will only think about work for 2 of those 7 days. It's all about baby steps. And Kathy, I want to pick on you with this one. What was your number?
Well, I think 5, to be honest with you, because I do travel a lot. I do take time off, but I always read a business book, or 7. And then I don't really sort of completely disconnect. I usually sort of have that hybrid. I'm off and doing things, and then I will check in and get back engaged. So I think my to-do is really spend more time with my grandkids, because they make me not touch any devices. I have to be pretty fully focused and present with them. So that's why I enjoy them so much. But that was an interesting caveat, that even a business book. So I thought reading.
I know. All right. The challenge is there. I'll be your accountability buddy if you need one. You just let me know.
Rob, I was going to share just real quick. I used to find, I would bring my laptop and I would think to myself, well, I'll just answer emails when the kids are asleep and my wife's asleep. And then before you know it, 9:30, 10 o'clock, I'm still going away and the family's waiting. And then they would end up doing breakfast without me. And I think about all those times that I missed because I didn't commit to that.
Yeah.
It's really
It's so
heartbreaking.
good. So good. Yeah, it is. It is. You're right. So let's not let that happen anymore. Thank you for sharing that, Tom. And thank you, Kathy, for being vulnerable. All right. So let's move on to discipline number 3, which is know thyself. And the root statement here is be you 24/7, 365 days a year. Be you. It's so important to fully get to know yourself. And I want to use this example, and I'm going to ask you to kind of visualize something for a moment. And I want you to imagine I'm going to take you through 2 scenarios. The first scenario I want you to imagine is that you're in an industry meeting and there's a pre-meeting cocktail party. And you're at the hotel and you find yourself walking down the hall. You're about to enter into the cocktail room. And you sort of pause at the doorway and you scan the room. And it's kind of a new industry meeting for you. And so you don't see a lot of familiar faces. Not an easy thing, even for an extrovert, which, I'm more of an introvert, so this is harder for me. But even for an extrovert, you're going to have to sort of, find your way in and start to create some conversation and some connection. And once you do that, the question, as you feel yourself going in there and getting into these conversations at the industry meeting, at this cocktail party, start to notice in your mind's eye, are you being you? Are you being 100% you? Or do you have some filters that are happening? Maybe you have some armor up. Maybe you're not being fully vulnerable. Maybe you're not being fully yourself in that scenario. So just think of a time maybe that you found yourself there and were you fully you? Because this scenario, the next one I'm going to take you through, this is the one where you're going to a gathering of your closest loved ones, your family, your friends, like where you are you, like no problem. And you come to you're all at a hotel and you come to where the cocktail party is going to be, and you're at the doorway and you look in and you see all these people and your heart just is so warm. You don't actually know where to start. You want to go give hugs to everybody. And now you find yourself in a conversation. And are you more freely you in that scenario? Now, when I'm able to interact, the answer is obvious from people that, obviously with their loved ones, they're more you because they're just more comfortable. And what we're here to challenge you is you can be you in both scenarios. You really can. One of our clients once shared quite proudly with us that he was really proud that he's a chameleon and that he can fit himself into any scenario. But I know him in a different way, and he's not a chameleon in the way that I know him. And so actually I challenged him because I found it to be quite sad that he felt like that was a positive thing, that he could go and just, be a chameleon, because his true colors were beautiful. He doesn't need to be a chameleon. He doesn't need to fit in. He needs to be him, because that's what people will appreciate. And the last thing I leave you with here is, have you ever met somebody, let's just say Kathy and Tom and I are talking and somebody walks up and they engage with us in a conversation and then they walk away and the three of us look at each other and maybe we say to each other, did that person have a weird energy? Or maybe we say to each other, oh, wow, that person had amazing energy. What we meant was weird energy, not authentic, not vulnerable. Great energy, fully them. You knew what you were getting the second you started engaging in conversation. And as humans, we just appreciate that about ourselves. So let's take a moment and rank ourselves on know thyself on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is you've got some work to do there. You're more of a chameleon than you are yourself. And 10 is you're always letting your, true self come to the forefront. And then if you're 7 or below, be just an action item that you could take in the next week. Okay. I'm going to keep us moving here. Discipline number 4 is be still. This root statement is sit in silence for 30 minutes every day. I know this is tough.
Including sleeping?
No, it does not include sleeping. Find yourself fully awake and present, sitting in silence. While I have had I have a meditation practice for 20 years. You don't need to look like the person on the screen. You don't need to meditate. A lot of people are very curious about meditation, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But the first thing I like to throw out for your consideration is, we have like super busy lives, especially high performers like you all. And, for many people, when they try this, they'll say things to me like, honestly, it just seems like a waste of time. I sit there and all I can think about are all the things I need to be doing and I'm not doing. And I need to get up and get back to doing. Well, as you listen to that, you hear what the problem is. You're just doing all the time. Is doing making progress, or is it checking boxes? I think sometimes being in stillness is making progress. And I have a great quote. It's one of my favorite. It's by the author Annie Lamott. And it goes like this: my mind is like a bad neighborhood. I try to never go there alone. And I oftentimes wonder if that's the reason we have trouble sitting in silence, because, hey, our minds just take control. And this is where we want to kind of be with it, allow it to be, and let our thoughts go and float by like clouds in the sky if we can practice that. It's not an easy thing to do. And just try to come to the present moment. Now, if sitting in silence doesn't work for you, you need something more active. Another thing that you can do is, some people have a religious practice. You could do some prayers. You could pray. For 30 minutes, that connects you to something. That's something that we hear is very valuable for people. You can journal. Some people love to journal. Just let your words fly. As our Kathy and our good friend Ari Weinsman says, from Zingerman says, hot pen it. I know when I journal, I can't even read what I'm writing because it's so messy. I'm going so fast. So if you're not writing a novel, and you don't need to worry about punctuation or grammar or anything like that, because you all are like racehorses. You go hard each and every day, and you've got to manage your energy. And this is a way to manage your energy. We don't have time to do it today, but when you sit in silence for even 2 minutes Anytime I take anybody through a period of time where we just sit in silence for 2 minutes, and then I ask them how they feel after, they say, I feel re-energized. 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. Now, I'm encouraging you to go to 30 and make it part of your routine. And I hope you will. I think it'll be worth your time. Your nervous system will thank you. Your mind will thank you. And I do believe it could be transformative for you. So on the ranking system, 1 to 10, 1 is you're not still at all. And 10 is you do it all the time, at least 30 minutes. Hey, if you have to work your way up to 30 minutes, of course, you'll do that. But come up with an action plan. Maybe your action plan is I'm just going to set a timer for 2 minutes today, and I'm just going to sit with my discomfort at least one time today, or maybe every day for the next week, and then move it up to 5 minutes, something like that. So go ahead and rank yourself. Okay, I'm going to move on to discipline number 5, which is know your 100%. Here, our root statement is decide on and commit to the perfect number of hours per week and weeks per year that you will deliver your value to the world. You see, this is your work container. This is the number of hours where you have the most energy, the number of weeks that you can work in a year where you know you can give it all at your highest level. Likely, if you're like most people, you're going beyond those boundaries, and which means you're not doing your best work, actually. Less is, I'm not making this statement up, less is more. And you have very specific, unique qualities. And I want you to work within those unique qualities well over 80% of your day, well over 80% of your year. And so this is what we want to focus on. I'll give you an example of a story from myself personally. I'm a runner, and when it was early on in our business and our team started to grow, part of my morning routine is going for a run, and then we had meetings that started to take place earlier and earlier and earlier, and it got to the point where I couldn't get my run in. And I had a business coach at the time, and I said, I'm really frustrated because I can't get my run in anymore. And he said, why? What's going on? I said, the meetings are starting too early. And he said, why do you accept the meetings? And I said, I don't want to mess anybody else up. And he said, you need that run. You're messing everybody up by showing up. You're not your best self. So I went to the team and I said, can we start an hour later because I need to get my run in? And they all said, yeah, sure, no problem. Problem solved. And my energy was so much better because of it. So it could be as simple as that. Think about what your version of that story is. What are the sacrifices that you're making that you may not need to be doing? And then where does it end? How many times do you have 1 sacrifice, 2 sacrifices, and the list just keeps going on to the point where it's draining your energy? So you must protect your time. Delegate and elevate. If you're familiar with EOS, they talk about that a lot. This will increase your productivity, your creativity, and of course, your energy. So let's do that self-assessment, 1 to 10, where 1 is you are so bad at knowing you're 100%. You're not protecting your boundaries at all. And 10 is you're amazing at it. So find your number and just jot down a real quick action item. Okay, so before we move on, you're noticing these are fast, they're powerful, they're simple, they're fully customizable to you, even though Kathy's committing to 130 days with no work. But you're noticing they're not easy. They're not easy to do without proper effort. So I'm going to move on to discipline 6 right now, which is say no often, which is now that you have a good building of the foundation with the first 5 disciplines, you're going to say no to everything that doesn't fit into those first 5. And, look, I understand you can't say no all the time. I get it, but you can say no. You can exercise that. I have trouble saying no. If you're familiar with the Enneagram profiling, I'm a type 3, type 2. I'm the helper and the achiever. So if you ask me, I want to help you, and then I want to achieve, I want to do the best. So, I have to really work hard at saying no, because if I say yes, I'm all in on it. And so what I want you to think about here is maybe something in the last week or 2 weeks that you said yes to that you regret saying yes to. You wish you didn't. It was easy to say yes in the moment, maybe because you're a helper like me, but as the time came around where you had to deliver on whatever it was you said yes, maybe you saw a meeting on your calendar and you think, I don't have any time for that meeting. Why did I say yes to that? Your energy drops and you show up and you just want to get done with it. Now, the pain that you experience from saying no when asked is much less than the pain that you're experiencing when you get to that meeting and your energy drops and that dread feeling of when you see it on your calendar. So that's what we want to work towards here, is saying no. Now, 2 things I want to share with you. First, baby steps. If this is hard for you, start exercising this muscle of saying no 25% of the time, 1 out of 4 times. If you do that, you're going to save, if that's an hour meeting once a week, you're going to save yourself 4 hours a month. There's a simple starting point for you. The other thing that in saying no is it's so freeing, and you're just going to notice how your energy rises. So if somebody comes to you and you want to say yes, say no, and do it with grace. Provide 1 or 2 resources for them where they can go get the help that they're looking for. And that way you'll feel better, you helped, and they'll feel better because they have direction and they will respect where you're coming from, I promise you. And so with that, take a moment to make your assessment. 1 to 10, 1 is you're horrible at saying no, 10 is you're masterful. And just very quickly, an action. And now, because of time, I'm going to go a little fast here, but discipline number 7 is don't do $25 an hour work. And the root statement is never do anything that you could pay somebody $25 an hour to do. And I need to qualify this statement by saying $25 an hour work is not lesser than work. It is very important work. There are many people that want to do that work. They're amazing at that work, and are happy to do it. They're dying to do it. So it's important work. This isn't what this is about. This isn't about somebody being above or below the other. This is about your pay grade. And if you're doing $25 an hour work, you're likely below your pay grade. And so always just ask yourself, whatever I'm doing right now, is this $25 an hour work? And if so, what do I need to do to delegate it, to get it off my plate? Make a plan for that. You will add value with your team members or employees. You're going to bring more value to your company, and you're going to be more strategic. Your customers are going to appreciate you more, and your loved ones are going to appreciate you more, because I'm not just talking about work stuff. I'm talking about the household as well. Anything that you can delegate and gives you more energy, say like on the weekends or whatever, so you don't have to take care of it, that's going to give you more energy. So I'm going to allow you to do the assessment on your own for the rest of these moving forward, but you get the point, and hopefully I got you started on it. The last 3, discipline number 8 is prepare every night. Simply stated, before your head hits the pillow every night, document the next day's plan. So whatever time that is for you, when you kind of finish your workday and any time before you actually go to bed, take a look at your calendar, take a look at your to-dos, just get it straight in your head, and then put it aside. Once you're sleeping, your mind and your subconscious is going to be working for you. When you wake up, you're going to be super clear. You're going to hit the ground running. You may have even solved a problem or come up with a creative solution for something while sleeping. You may notice that might have happened to you in your life, where all of a sudden you're, making your coffee and you go, oh my God, I have an idea. This is what we need to do. Your subconscious was working on it while you were sleeping. So prepare every night. Discipline number 9, put everything in one place. Pick one place, just one, where you will capture every idea, commitment, thought, action item, and promise throughout the day. This is as simple as a notepad. One thing, not multiple notepads, multiple journals, multiple electronics. One thing, just pick it. And as you're in your meetings, as you're going in between meetings, as you're working on email and something, an idea comes to you, you jot it down in that one place. As you shut down at the end of the night, you look at your one place and you just disseminate where all those things go. They might go to your calendar. You might delegate it to somebody on your team. You might take an action item that you need to follow through on in the morning, etc. The sad thing about leaders is that we are letting our teams down because we have so much coming at us throughout the day. We lose track of some percentage of it, and we don't even realize it. And our team oftentimes don't call us out on it. So we're walking and we're unconscious about it. So just pick that one place. And I finish with discipline number 10, which is be humble. And simply stated, view yourself as an equal to every person on the planet. And as you see here, on that scale from arrogant to humble, find out, just ask yourself and be really tough on yourself. Where do you land on the scale of arrogant to humble? And if it's anywhere beyond the middle to the left, please work on bringing it up to humble, because there is nothing in this world like a humble person. We all know who they are, and they are so wonderful to be around. And so with that, Kathy and Tom, thank you so much. I really appreciate you bringing me here today.
Wow.
This fantastic, really fantastic. I loved a lot of the context. I know we talked about this, in our prep session, but I'm curious, because I tend to prepare in the morning. Is there an advantage to preparing at night? I like what you said about, because I do tend to wake up and be, oh my gosh, I didn't do X, and then I'm up. Is that intentional that it's in the evening?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's so powerful, because when you go to sleep with a clear mind, you know what's got to happen tomorrow. You've got some problems you got to deal with. You got some creative solutions you got to come up with. You go in with trust, and you allow your subconscious to do the work. Allow it to do the work. When you wake up, you're going to be surprised. You're going to notice more clarity. Good night's sleep. Subconscious did the work. You're going to have some solutions. You're going to be very clear about what's going on in the day, and you'll hit the ground running.
Kathy, there's a great story I heard. Paul McCartney used to keep a book off to the side of his desk, and he woke up one morning and yesterday was written. And I think sometimes that space of letting your subconscious actually do the work for you, you create a song that lasts for 60 years, right?
That's so good. That is so good.
Yeah. What was sort of an aha for you, Tom, in this discussion?
So one, this prepare every night and be still. I remember reading something where an executive said, when I want to do my best thinking, I think about something right before I go in the shower, or I take a long drive. And so that space of, in the shower or driving, your body is doing other things, and it allows your mind to kind of, and so I started doing that. It's hard for me to just do the meditation. I find I fall asleep, but if I kind of still I let my mind do something. So if I'm going on a long drive, I tend to kind of go into that drive thinking, okay, I'm going to solve this problem. And I'm telling you, it's amazing what I'm able to accomplish. Sometimes I'm missing 3 or 4 exits, but it's so that's probably the thing that really spoke to me the most. But all 10 of these are just so present, and so you recognize that these are all muscles you've got to exercise. It's just great, Rob. I really love the whole conversation.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I did have one other question about the 100%. I thought conceptually, I really got sort of playing to your strengths and those types of things. But what else? And I am a huge believer in trying to put in some, I play tennis and do other like extracurricular things to just de-stress myself. How do you apply that kind of thinking to sort of more business related scenarios?
So, and we're talking about know your 100%. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
That one? Yeah. Well, in a business scenario, when you're really clear about your boundaries, whatever's coming at you, I'll just start there. Whatever's coming at you, it's much easier on your mind to make decisions because you're really clear about your boundaries. Some of us expend energy over a 5-minute period of time just trying to figure out what we should do with that request or whatever it might be. But when you're really clear about it, you don't have to think about it. So that's one area. The other area is by setting your boundaries and knowing the perfect amount of hours that you can deliver your best work in a day. And let's just say, for the sake of this discussion, it's 50 hours. And if you go one beyond that, you're on the verge of burnout. So knowing this, you have to use every one of those 50 hours very wisely. Because if you get beyond 50, you're not doing your best work. And that means even during the actual 50, it's not like, oh, for 50, I'm good. And then for 5 or 10 more, I'm not. No, it means it's all not good. It's all not as good. But when you are energized all day, every day, clear mind, space, that's when you have freedom, creativity, and that's where you really start to make impact. I always like to say that, some of the best ideas in business I like to always say, because we don't have that creativity, the depth of that creativity, we come up with ideas that are actually good ideas, but the great idea was just down a little bit more, but we didn't have the space for it. And so it got lost. And so we have a good idea and it serves us for 6 months or a year or something. And then that fizzles and we're trying to figure out the next thing. The real game-changing ideas in business are when you have space to really, really think, and that you have to set your boundaries to have that.
Yeah, I agree. Now, we did have a question. What are some of the actions you recommend in areas where we might be under or sub in any of the 10 disciplines?
Okay. So first of all, don't feel overwhelmed because, regularly I see scores like in the 50s or, 60. So, just know that's normal. I would say pick 2 that are the most challenging for you and put your focus on those action items. Take baby steps. Let's say taking time off without business, 130 days seems overwhelming. Let's say right now you think you do like 20. So move it up to 30 next year and stay focused on it. Get it from 30 to 60 because you'll start to notice how powerful it is. So just take baby steps. Don't feel like you need to be perfect on day one. Some people do that and they're disciplined enough to do it, but most people aren't.
We've got another question. Are the 10 disciplines applicable for non-leaders in an organization?
It's a tough one. I have to be honest. We teach the leaders, so those are the people that so it does require, the ability to control your calendar to a certain extent and be able to make, in business at least, to be able to make certain decisions and certain calls that could be disruptive to other people. And sometimes if you're in a non-leadership role, you don't have that opportunity. That said, bring these into your personal life. If you don't have that control at work, bring these into your personal life the best you can and try to incorporate as much of you can. I mean, depending on your income, you can look at not doing $25 an hour work and see how that serves your energy. And maybe there are ways that you can make more money because you're not having to do those $25 an hour work things at home, just to use that as an example.
But Rob, I think about some of the leaders that I work with, and if one of their employees came up and said, listen, I'm trying to become a better person, a better employee, I want to be more productive, and here's what I'm thinking, what a powerful conversation that would be in the business world. And knowing that that's where my employee and they want to grow or they want to expand, I could see leaders just supporting that and really helping them in a powerful way.
The ideal, our dream, it's kind of the small giants community sort of dream is there's leaders out there, and there are communities like Small Giants where there's leaders like this, where they say, I'm incorporating this in my life. I see how powerful it is for me. I want my team to have this same thing in their life. And so if you're part of a company like that, congratulations for finding a home like that. Purposeful leadership, purposeful companies like Small Giants, and hopefully, as you mentioned, Tom, the leader can take this kind of framework to the team and give them the space to utilize it in their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are just getting close to time, and I want to be cognizant of everyone's schedule. Rob, I know you guys are kicking off some cohorts to help people get support on improving their disciplines, their leveraging
the mastery.
Yes, please tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we open up these group coaching sessions. There's 12 sessions over 15 weeks. There's one open right now, it closes on Monday. And this is where we have leaders come in, and this is where they're focused on mastering these so they can, really get that freedom in their life to have the space to spark that creativity and make true impact in this world.
And Rob, you doing this virtually or in person?
Yeah, it's all on Zoom.
Nice.
Yeah, 1 hour commitment for 12 sessions over 15 weeks.
That's great. Yeah.
Thanks for that question. Yeah.
And so we've got Rob's contact information up here. If you want to reach out to Rob and get any more one-on-one feedback on the 10 disciplines, please reach out, put business as unusual in the subject line or in your message via LinkedIn so Rob knows that you are coming from our session today. And then I do believe you're going to be at the EOS conference at Summit in
That's right.
April next year. So for all of the EOS businesses, please look for Rob and connect with him on the 10 disciplines next year at Summit. Awesome. And thank you so much. We're going to talk about what's coming in October. But first, I wouldn't want to forget to thank our sponsors, Insperity, HR Source, and of course, Tom from M3 Learning. And then our next session is going to be in October. And we are going to be talking with Tim Schum. He is the founder and president of Lucas James Partners, and he's going to be talking about talent strategies in a recessionary environment. I think all of us that have been hiring and looking at building our teams out have been through so many different ups and downs, and now we've got a new caveat to the hiring process. So Lucas James Talent Partners offers a really unique approach to antiquated recruitment industry. So he's got some really great ideas on cost-effective and different ideas for building your team in a recessionary time as well as growth times as well. So he is just a fun guy and a real rock star in the talent space. So I hope people will join us to hear Tim's perspective on what to do in your hiring for 2023. So thank you again, Tom, for joining us, being my co-host. It was just a pleasure.
Great conversation.
We'll have to bring this to our breakfast group and see how our friends from Small Giants and Executive Breakfast Club rate themselves on.
I'll tell you what's great about this conversation is I don't care what age you are, you're going to say, I wish I did this 10 years ago.
Exactly. Rob, such a pleasure to see you again. Really appreciate it. I look forward and wish you guys the best of luck in your cohort.
Thank you so much.
I will see you at the summit. So
see you there.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
You too.